My name is Dan Neff, and I'm a glassblower from Duluth, Minnesota. So I specialize in a type of glassblowing where I use a torch instead of a furnace, and I use Pyrex glass. So it's a little harder glass, more durable, and it has a higher melting temperature, and that's why the torch is so important. So that glass gets super hot, over 2,300 degrees to work with it, but it cools really quick. So I need a heat source that I can get in and out of very quickly to do the process that I do to make my work. I'd say it's a little bit more of a building process, and I've always loved building. I grew up working for my grandfather, who was a stonemason and bricklayer, and building for him. He taught me how to do carpentry work. My older brother's an electrician, so I know how to do that. So I've always loved building things. And once I realized that glass is pretty much the same thing, it's building with just a different material, it's a lot of reverse engineering and planning. And so that's really why I like it. I can go back to a moment when I was a kid and I loved playing with Legos and building things. And I was hanging out with my buddy and he's like, all right, well, we built these spaceships, now let's play with them. And I was like, well, we have been playing with them, we built the Legos. And he's like, well, no, let's have battles and fly them around. And I was like, I guess we could. I was gonna just take them apart and build something new. And so thinking back to that moment, it was this total aha moment that I've been this way since I was a kid, that I'm all about the process, the planning, the execution, and creating that vision that I have in my head. And so that's really what I love about making marbles, is that it's all that planning and prep and then executing it and building this thing. And that's what I get the most enjoyment from. I started blowing glass in 2003. I got an apprenticeship, and it was very informal, but it taught me the basics. In 2003, you couldn't go on YouTube to learn how to do things like this. So I learned where to get materials, I learned the basics, how to set my own studio up. Didn't learn a ton of techniques, but it got me into it, got me the knowledge I needed to get going. Fast forward to college a few years later. I did it throughout college. I made sure every place I rented when I was at school could let me have a studio in the garage or the basement. And when I finished my degree, I started taking classes from world-renowned glass artists. And that's really where I learned a lot of the tips and tricks that I still use today in a lot of my processes. And that really was the best shortcut. I taught myself a lot from the internet during college, books, and DVDs. But once I started learning from these masters, it really took my work to the next level, helped me work more efficiently, helped me understand the medium better. So my most popular design are my contemporary marbles. So that's really one of my specialties. I take clear Pyrex or borosilicate glass, and I do different optical illusions on the inside. And so that to me is what makes marbles so unique. This is kind of like the modern day paperweight, but we don't need paperweights for their function. So rather than having a flat spot on the bottom like a paperweight would typically have, they're completely spherical, and they have those optical illusions on the inside. So people really enjoy getting to know the piece and looking to see what's inside of it, finding different vantage points. There's a lot to discover in each one. And one thing that really sets my work apart from other marble makers is that on most of my work, I do a two-dimensional pattern on the back side. And this pattern is unique to the year that I made the piece. So every year since 2009, I've come up with a different pattern to do on the back side. And then once that year is over, I retire it and force myself to come up with a new one. And it's kind of a self-imposed rule because I'm a perfectionist and I could spend years trying to refine that same pattern. And so forcing myself to retire it and come up with a new one keeps me fresh, keeps me trying new techniques, learning more about different colors. There's so many idiosyncrasies with this process that it takes a lot of trial and error to figure out what colors work in what applications. There's just a lot that you can't learn any other way than trying it. So that's what really sets my work apart, is that pattern on the backside. So when I get to see someone experience my work for the first time, it's one of the most rewarding pieces of creating artwork and being an artist. For me, I love the process and building the piece and the technique that goes into it. But when I can bring that and present it to someone and have them explore it and have that sense of awe and wonder when they look into a piece and turn it around and discover different perspectives on the same thing or discover new areas within a piece, that to me is extremely rewarding. And that's what I love about going out and doing art fairs. I get to connect one-on-one with my customers and my patrons and my supporters and help them experience why I love the piece, and then get to see them discover why they love it.